Big is back. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. And to round out our month of taking a look at the Combiner Dinobots, we're going to take a look at Volcanicus. And of course, right now, hereabouts, we've got all of the Dinobots. We just got to make a slight alteration here. That's better. Put Grimlock in the wrong position there. But there we go. We have all 5 of the Dinobots here featured. We got Sludge, we got Swoop, we got Grimlock, we got Slug, and we got Snarl. Now, all these guys are shifted in the positions that you last saw them if you've been following our videos this month. Which I do hope everybody has, but if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard, and there will be a playlist here at the end of the video that will lead you to the other videos. Alright, let's get started putting him together. We're going to take the arms, we're going to set them aside for the moment. So we got Snarl and we got Sludge. We're making them be the legs. In reality, it doesn't matter which way any of them goes, but we're trying to build Volcanicus in his canonical shape. So, once we have that, we take Grimlock here. We're going to slide him onto these posts right here. Now, probably the best way to do it, in my mind, is to bend the leg post at where the knee would presumably be. That way it gives you something to hold on to and helps slide them into place. Grimlock, of course, here keeps coming loose at the hip. Thankfully, this is a good one-handed job. Get those slid in and then bend him up at the knees. Kind of make an adjustment at the hip so that he'll stand properly. Of course, and then we got to adjust the tripod so we can look up here at the top. And of course, up here, we have these spots here on the shoulders. And that's where the arms will slide in. Again, very simple process to just push them in. Come on, Swoop. There we go. There we go. And then there you have it, folks. This is Volcanicus, the Dinobot Combiner. Now, before we get into a little bit of history of Volcanicus, we got to give a long-delayed shout-out about this figure. I got to give a shout-out to my brother, Cyclonus150, because he bought all of these guys back in the day. Excuse me while I fix Swoop here. Get him back together. But he bought all of these guys back in the day. And he's been saving these for a while to get them filmed. So, definitely thanks to my brother for getting all of them. So it's a well-deserved shout-out. It's not often we get something like this. So, definitely praise to my brother for his efforts. Volcanicus is actually the second combined form of the Dinobots. A first version was introduced in the comic books rather recently, and it was known as the Beast. But unfortunately, the fandom really didn't take to that creation very well. So the idea was abandoned. However, it was resurrected again when the Power of the Primes line came out, and they decided to make it a different character altogether. And hence we got Volcanicus. Volcanicus did make an appearance in the Machinima-produced Prime Wars cartoon, where he got a memorable bit fighting Predaking. Unfortunately, that would be the only time that Volcanicus would be seen because, spoiler alert, Sludge would be killed in a battle after the Combiner battle was shown. However, it was still a treat for Generation 1 fans, as voice actor Greg Berger, who voiced Grimlock in the Generation 1 cartoon, did return to reprise the role, and also contributed his voice to the combined Volcanicus. And of course, as we also stated earlier, like back at the end of February, Volcanicus is returning to the toy line as he is going to be a core class combiner featured in the new Legacy Evolution toy line. However, since they're adding a 6th Dinobot to it, it will have a totally different configuration to what this one does. As usually on many of the 6 combiners, ones that have 6 robots, the bulk of them usually require 2 robots to form the body. Of course, the only exception to that was Generation 1's Piranacon, where it had an optional 6th figure, and he could form a gun. But at any rate, let's take a look here at Volcanicus and his articulation. His head can be turned from side to side. It's unfortunately not on a ball joint, so it won't look up and down. In this configuration, his arms can move out to the side about so far. And the arms do rotate at the shoulder all the way. Just gotta watch out for those wings moving. His arms can be bent at the elbow 90 degrees. And since they're basically based on the waists of the smaller dinosaur, they do have a swivel at the bicep, so he has G.I. Joe battle grip. He can be twisted just above his hips, so he's got some dance moves going for him. You can spread his legs apart into a full splits. And of course he separates himself again rather easily. Let's get this back in. He does have a thigh cut, as can be seen. The legs can be raised up at the hip 90 degrees, and you can bend him at the knee 90 degrees. So all in all, he does have quite a range of motion. Makes me jealous from those old days where they had next to no articulation. Okay, before we get to my final thoughts, I do want to make sure that I do point out a few things about Volcanicus here. Hasbro did release 2 versions of Volcanicus when this toy was originally released. This one is the mass retail version. This was the one that you'd be able to buy in the stores. The stores all sold them individually. Grimlock, Swoop, and Slug were available early in the year, and Sludge and Snarl here came out later in the year. That was back in 2018. Hasbro also released a gift set of Volcanicus through their Hasbro Pulse website. It may not have been Hasbro Pulse at that time, but it's basically if you bought it online from them, you could get a different one, where it had all 5 of the Dinobots, but they were all painted up more to resemble their appearance in the Generation 1 cartoon. So they will look slightly different than what this version does. And that one also came with 2 giant swords. At present, I don't have that version, nor does my brother, because basically he bought all these guys. And since he bought some of these after the fact, well, as you can understand, he did spend a fair amount of money for them. So, if you have a Volcanicus that looks like this, but isn't quite the same, you have the Hasbro version. So, that's the thing we wanted to make sure to mention. So, now we get down to my final thoughts. Volcanicus is an interesting addition to the Transformer lore. The Dinobots, when they were originally released, were based on toys that Takara had produced that were basically mecha robots. Because all of them, with the exception of Swoop, due to his smaller size, had spots on their original toys that could be opened up. They served no real purpose in the Transformer lore, but that's where, in the original toys, when they were released back in the late 70s or early 80s, a little tiny figure could be placed inside to act as a driver. So, that gave them a sort of a different characteristic. The other toys became internationally famous after being used as the Dinobots. Now that they've been given a combined form, well, it's a mixed bag. The toy itself, it's okay. I mean, there's some connection troubles, especially with Grimlock, as you've seen us fight with a fair amount of times in the video. Grimlock really doesn't stay held together very well. I know there's been a lot of issues with some saying that Volcanicus is a bit top-heavy. My experience with a lot of the Power of the Primes combiners is that very much a lot of them are top-heavy. That's part of the reason why I use the extra Prime armor as supports on their feet. That kind of helps reduce a lot of their top heaviness. Finding this figure nowadays is going to be a bit of a challenge, but if it is something that you really want, I would say go for it. It's really relatively simple to put together and display, since he does have a lot of posing options. But it will probably try your patience on many of them, so experiment to find the one that works for you. And that concludes my review of the Power of the Primes Volcanicus. I hope you all enjoyed it. And remember that if you do like the content that we feature on this channel, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Now, coming up here in April, we're going to wrap up a few of the toy lines that we've started to cover, but haven't really been able to finish due to supply issues. We're going to wrap up most of the Legacy line with this. I don't have Megatron yet, but he is being re-released in the Evolution line, so I may get him in that one, I may get the Legacy one. But I will mention what the differences are in the video when we get around to him. Plus, I've gotten 2 more of the Velocitron figures. Unfortunately, the third one I'm not going to go after, since I still can't find it. And all it is a repaint of Astro Train, and I'm still irked at Hasbro about Astro Train. And the 4th figure in the Velocitron line will not be released. So, we might as well get that one wrapped up too. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.